Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Press Box. This is John Carter. My guest today is Ed Smith. And Ed, thanks for coming. You're the co-owner and driver for Cleveland Construction.
Yes, I am. I'm glad to be here.
Well, great. Really nice to have you. Tell us a little bit about your season. I've heard you had a very successful 2015.
Well, 2015 turned out pretty good towards the end. The beginning, we had a lot of gremlins. I did change my throttle man around. My son used to race with me, and we changed that around a little bit. Now I've got a gentleman from Nautica. His name is Keith Holmes, and a lot of the people here in the area have seen the Cat Can Do boat. So he actually owns the Cat Can Do boat, and he throttles that boat. So I asked him if he'd turn around and throttle and race with me in the Super Cat class.
Interesting. So he does that. He does both things. Are the boats different? Would there be a different kind of skill set?
Oh, God, yes. The Cat Can Do boat is an unlimited boat. That boat's got 1,850 horsepower per side. That boat runs about 170, 175 miles an hour. Our boat's got little 510 single 4-barrel carbureted motors in it and only runs about 135 to 140.
Only?
Yeah, only.
There is pretty quick.
40 miles an hour is a big difference in a boat.
Ed, tell us a little bit about how you started in this. It's such an interesting kind of pastime and hobby, but it's probably more than that for you, right?
Well, it is. A lot of people know how I started, but I'll go through it again. It was back at LaCroix's pub. A good friend of mine, Dave Goodman from Tiger Fiberglass. Those gentlemen were up there, and Dave races for a long time, or has. They raced in Bay City, Michigan.
Okay.
And they were racing up there in the river or out in the bay or something somewhere, and they come back. And I seen him at the bar. Well, he turned around and he said, well, why don't you race boats? And I said, nah, I don't have the money nor the time for that. And he says, I'll bet you $5 I can beat you. And I says, well, okay, we'll try that. So that was the winter, and it was the winter of 1997. I went to Ohio, bought my first boat, brought it back to my shop, built it myself, and then that's how I started racing. And now we're 4 boats later, and I'm running in one of the most elite classes there is on the SBI and OPA circuit.
That's terrific. And you've had quite a bit of success, right, over the last couple of years?
Oh, ever since I've started, I believe I've got like 10 national championships, 4 world championships. And again, this year we did win another national this year, and we did win the Florida championship races in SBI.
Ed, tell us a little bit about the boat. I mean, we go down every year and watch them, but it's just fascinating, all the work that goes into them. Tell us a little bit about your boat.
Well, the boat is a 388 skater built over in Douglas, Michigan.
Okay.
Believe it or not, it's locally, just on the other side of the state, so it's not like we went out of state to get the boat. The boat is all carbon fiber and Kevlar with a foam coring in it.
Is that for the weight or the protection?
Well, it's for the strength. This boat is really, really strong. Carbon fiber is a really strong material, and it's all done with epoxy. And of course, it is light. The boat's very fast. It's got all the top technology in it. This one is fully canopied, so you're actually inside a cockpit with a 5-point harness on with a lid on. It's like being in a fishbowl. So it's pretty safe.
Okay, from a racing standpoint, is that canopy a help or a hindrance?
Well, it's a great help.
Okay.
But what happens is when you first get in one, until you have respect for the boat. I have blown 4 boats over. I even took this boat over a year ago in Sarasota. We barrel rolled it at over 120 miles an hour, and we sunk it. But you get that, how do you want to call it, sense of security in the boat. Like you're in there and nothing can harm you. Well, it helps because of the speeds we're running, but you also have to turn around in the back of the mind. You don't want to do something totally stupid, because if the glass comes out of it, that water pressure at over 100 miles an hour is just tremendous.
I get it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the prepreparation you do. I mean, is it different for different races? For instance, what's it like preparing for St. Clair versus the Key West race you just did?
Oh, for St. Clair, usually, you take St. Clair. The only time that we're going to get rough water is if we get a good south wind. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the water is going to be relatively flat. You're going to get reversion off of the seawall. So what we do is we take weight bags. We're not allowed in our boat to have any ballast, but we can have weight. Weight comes in bags that's lead shot, and we put all the weight in the back of the boat because we want the bow up in the air to gulf all the air we can and compress the air to lift the boat. So it's aerodynamically designed to lift it, less boat in the water, less drag, faster you go. And then we end up using a bigger propeller because we're not bouncing in and out of the water, and we're not on the throttles all the time. Now, Key West, again, now this year, We were in 4 to 5 footers, sometimes 6 footers in Key West. So you want to go to a little shorter propeller, which is a smaller pitch, keep the RPMs up so you're in the power mode instead of lugging the boat. I mean, everybody's had a boat going out fishing, and when you get in the boat and you throw the throttle to the dash, the boat goes blah. Well, we can't have that, because if it hesitates, you're going to be in the back of the pack,
right,
especially in this class.
Right.
So you want a smaller propeller, keep the RPMs up, but you want to hold the nose down. And we call it kiting. If you hit a wave and the boat stands straight up, you'll kite the boat, and you take 40 feet by 11 feet wide piece of plywood and stand it up in the air, going at over 100 miles an hour, the wind will blow you right over backwards.
Yeah, yeah.
And these boats are not designed to go into the water backwards. That's the hard part about them.
Yep.
You know, if they roll over, the canopy will shred the water off. Mm-hmm. If they come over backwards, you usually have a big, huge problem.
So tell us, what's your strategy in these races? Do you just go out as hard as you can for as long as you can? Do you kind of hang back and try to take them at the last? What's your strategy going into a race?
Well, what we try to do is we'll go and we'll see the stats on who we're racing against.
All right.
It's not rocket science. It's just like NASCAR. Those guys all knew who they're running against. Their pole position is a big deal. We try to get close to the pin. Of course, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
Right.
So if we can get on the pin, because now we've got the boats where we can turn it at 120 miles an hour. We go in at 120, turn the boat, and come right around the other way. So it's a lot of G-forces in the boat.
Yeah.
And if you're taking it wide, you can keep your speed up, but still you got your distance. So when we're looking at a boat that's, take for instance, Bob Teague with Amsoil. We'd been chasing him all year. Bob Teague got us here in St. Clair. He also got us here in Port Huron. And his boat's shorter. We all have to weigh the same weight, so the weight doesn't matter. We all have to weigh 9,500 pounds. But he has a little more acceleration. So what we try to do is get to the shorter part of the course.
Okay.
And try to get him on distance, because he would keep to the outside, keep the speed up.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Him and his driver, Paul Whittier. I mean, those guys have been racing for, I think Bob's racing for 30, 35 years. I've only been in this for 20. So you take a gentleman like him that has all that experience. I mean, you got to really be on your game to beat him.
Yeah.
And we didn't start getting in front of him until we started running these Florida events. And of course, you know, our boat likes the rougher water. Okay. You know, we don't like flat water. We like that 2 foot, 3 foot water. We weight the nose, and the boat really seems to handle and fly level with it.
That's really interesting. So tell us, what are the kind of the different roles for the two people in the boat? I mean, you know, do they both do things at the same time? What are you doing there in the boat when you got two people in there?
Oh, absolutely. What we end up doing now, Keith and I, Keith takes care of the drive trim, the trim tabs, and the engines. Okay. And he monitors. He doesn't really have to look out of the windshield at all. He just watches the gauges, and I tell him to get it, and he's got it to the dash, and he runs it as hard as he can. The class that we're in now, there's no speed limit.
Okay.
None whatsoever. But we're limited by RPM and gear ratio. Everything else is pretty much out the window. If you could run the boat, say, at 160 miles an hour, go ahead. But with the engines, you're limited to that torque and speed number. He runs the engines. I drive and navigate the boat. Okay. Now, communications, we can now have a spotter that we have on the water, or we have one on shore. So we have a gentleman that has a headset on, and they're watching the whole event. They're counting laps for us, and they're also telling us who's behind us and how far behind and what our lap times are.
Well, there certainly seems to be a lot of similarities to car racing and NASCAR when you talk about things like that.
Oh, this class, this Super Cat class that we're in is one of the most elite, and it is so close to NASCAR, it's unbelievable. We're just on water.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Which is a little bit of a difference, that's for sure.
Exactly.
So one of the really, I think, highlights of the summer every year is obviously the St. Clair race. And so what is it, I've heard many times, seen in the paper, it's a very popular race among the drivers. Why is that the case?
Well, the thing is St. Clair, you know, of course I live here.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a quaint little town. Everybody knows everybody. And the fan base that's here in St. Clair for the powerboat race is unbelievable. When these guys come in from other states, all over the country, They come here, and there's people that know who they are. These people go on the internet, of course, with social media. I mean, you can find anything about anybody. But it's amazing at how many people here in this town follow the racing outside of the city.
Okay.
I mean, there's people that's even call my office, want to know how we did in such and such a race. Or they watch it on live stream. So everybody knows what you're doing. And when these other guys come into town, they think, well, it's just another town. But they pull up, they get out of their trucks, and people's asking them, you know, what happened at that last race? What did you do? And these guys go, wow, they really follow us. So the fan base, and of course it's beautiful here, the blue water and the river. I mean, it's such a picturesque place. But the drivers feel at home. The throttlemen feel at home. These guys come here, and people come out, and they know them. They actually know them by name. And offshore powerboat racing is one of the few racing deals that people can go right up and touch the boat. You know, NASCAR, if you're not in the pits or in the center, you're not going to get near them guys.
Right.
Here, so all you got to do is walk down the street, and those guys want to talk to you.
Yeah.
They want the hustle bustle.
Well, you mentioned that. One of the real highlights for me for that weekend is literally the kind of the parade of boats and the trailers and all those sorts of things. I mean, those trailers alone look like, you know, high-tech hospitals virtually, boat hospitals.
It is. Yeah, the trailers that they have, a lot of them now, like our trailer, for example, is a tilt trailer. And the reason why they do that is so that we can go down the road without permits, because their boats are over width. So what we end up doing, somebody come up with the idea of figuring out the geometry, and you stand it on end. So we're under 120 inches wide. So we stand it on end, we're under 13.6, and we just go down the road.
Oh, that's cool. They really are some neat looking things. So what are some of the peculiarities of racing in St. Clair? I would assume there's not a lot of places where you've got 1,000-foot freighters potentially coming down the middle of your course.
No, you know, St. Clair is about the only event, you know, besides Port Huron, because it's proximity. Yeah. But everywhere we go, usually the water's brown, it's salt water. Here, the guys can put their boat in the water, they get it out. I mean, we had a team here from Guitar one year, and I seen them backed up to a hose and they're trying to flush their engines out. I said, what are you guys doing? Well, we're flushing the motors. And I said, why are you flushing the motors? I says, it's fresh water. This is what you drink. Oh, and they didn't understand it. They didn't know that we pump right out of the river.
Sure, yeah.
And that's our drinking water.
Yeah.
Over there, they can't do that. They either do wells or desalinization or whatever they do. So that's a different deal. And then a lot of the other race sites, we're offshore. I mean, besides Key West, you're running into a harbor. A lot of the race course is way out. You can't even see it unless you're on a boat.
Okay.
Clearwater's another one. You could watch it from the beach a little bit, but it's not like here. You're only 100 feet from the racers. When they're coming down the boardwalk, it's like you can touch the boats. You can hear them, you can feel them go by. So
the sound is physical. Yeah. And it really is. It's amazing, the difference. Well, listen, you brought along something I think is a real treat for us. We actually have today a clip from the upcoming event that's going to be on NBC. Maybe you could talk a little bit about it, then we'll play that and we'll come back.
Sure. Steel, which is steel chainsaws and steel power equipment, them along with Billy Moff and some other people that put some money together, NBC Sports did a show last year. Come to find out, the response for it was unbelievable. So now NBC showed up at Clearwater, which was the national championship race for Florida, which, by the way, we won, so which gives us that Florida title. They did some footage there, and then they did all 3 races in Key West. So at the end of January is when the first show is going to come on NBC Sports, which is going to be huge. They're going to have 3 one-hour shows. One's at the end of January, the other 2 are the first part of February.
Oh, that's really terrific. Well, listen, let's watch that clip. I just saw it briefly in we were here before the show started. Let's watch that, and we'll come back and talk a little more with that.
Key West is the Grand Prix, the Indianapolis 500, the Daytona 500 of the offshore powerboat racing.
If someone wants to be the top of his sport, they have to come to Key West.
The big thing about Key West is this is a body of water that everybody thinks they got figured out, but nobody's ever got it figured out.
Well, Key West is a unique thing because of the 3-race format, and the weather's never usually the same. boats now will be getting bigger, they'll be getting faster, and they'll be getting louder as the day progresses. And that's why we are really getting amped up. And I tell you what, when these guys get out there today on this very, very fast track, once again, they're going to be letting it all hang out.
Attention all race boats, respond to the boating area.
We're going to win it all, baby. We're going to win it all.
Winning here is what it's about. This is not a game. This is the real deal.
Once that hatch closes and that green flag goes, there's nothing like it in the world.
We have a green flag. Let's go racing. We are going racing superboat style.
It's just been really competitive the whole time, and we're not taking anything for granted. It's going to be really exciting and a real nail biter.
I think every boat here could win this race.
It's so difficult to say who's going to be the guy that I got to beat. I got to beat them all.
There's always been a bullseye on my back, but, you know, bring it on. I don't care.
I'm going to go over him and then hit it. Everyone's going to fight to get position. Everyone's going to fight to get the turn. Everybody's going to fight to be where they need to be.
And look how close they are. This is unbelievable.
We were bumping, coming in all the way around. We were bumping at the turns. It was definitely a drag race out there. It was unbelievable.
We got it now.
Intimidation at its finest.
It's a tight race course, you know. It's a 4.3-mile lap. So when you have these tight race courses and everybody's kind of evenly matched and coming in and turning together, things happen, unfortunately.
Getting ready to line up, next thing I know, I just saw the whole bottom of the boat on top of me, and pretty much our world championship was over right then and there.
Oh my God, they missed it! Oh my goodness!
You're not running 100% the whole time. You're going to be left behind.
Try to get out of his way. I am.
Remembering that these boats shoot out a 75-foot rooster tail. It's not like an automobile race where one can be right behind another.
Where did that come from?
Hey guys, we're done. This thing's hurt bad.
It's just you got to make sure you pick a lane, hold your lane, and everybody's going to be running for that same turn.
Look at this, look at this!
Yeah, it's an all-out competitive race out there.
Because at the speeds we reach, everything's got to be right. A tiny little nut, a wire here, the boat out of balance. It could be disastrous.
The spin out was extremely violent. It threw him out of the back of the boat.
Oh my goodness, they get upset when they were awake! Ooh! Bob Christie just got ejected.
Nobody lays down day 1, day 2, or day 3. There is no lay down. You have to go out and you have to run every day, hard every day.
That we saw just there are a couple of quick shots of you and your team out front, right, out leading that race.
Yeah, we ended up Wednesday. We had a 10-cent part after the second lap broke us down. We were out front in Wednesday's race. We come out. We talked about it in the milling circle. I talked to Keith. I says, "You want to shoot up the middle of the course because you're allowed to do it on the start, not any other time, only on the start." And we shot straight up the middle. We were leading everybody by about 500 or 600 feet. We got through the first couple turns coming into the harbor, and the engine started cutting out. And it was just a little electrical eyelet that was broken, and that gave us all that havoc and made us drop out.
That's awful.
Then we fixed that. We got it back running again, and on Friday's race, we ended up taking a 4th out of 9 boats. There's 9 boats in the class. And then on Sunday, when we went on out on Sunday, we won on Sunday. So
that's terrific. I tell you what, though, the thing that you notice, though, is a couple of those boats going right over the top
yes.
and the damage they can cause. Got to talk a little bit about this is not. It's a dangerous sport, right? I mean,
very dangerous. Yeah, if you don't have the mindset for this, to get into this, you really don't know if you're coming back to the dock when you get back into the boat. But you're so the adrenaline rush when you walk down the dock, you get in the boat, and when they come across the radio and they tell you to get your boats to the milling circle, you don't think about anything else. I mean, once you hit the switch and you start the boat up, I mean, it's just that's all you think about is the race.
Well, it's really an exciting intro, and the camera work there is just amazing. They must have cameras right in the boat, correct?
Yeah, we had 4 cameras on our boat for the whole week, and NBC came up and they asked for all the footage, so we put it all on those little zip drives or whatever they're called, or them sticks, and we gave them, so they have all the footage, even inside the cockpit on our boat.
That's neat.
So that's good and it's bad. A lot of the guys will let the cameras see what's going on with the tachometers and the trim and everything else. And you don't want your competitor to see too much of that.
Sure.
So I don't know how much they're going to use, but we signed away and let them use every bit that they want because it's for the show.
Well, it's really neat. So tell us again, when's this going to be showing?
The first show is January 31st.
Okay.
And it's on NBC Sports. So it'll be on Comcast. It'll also be on the Dish.
Okay. That's terrific.
So it's going to be a great show, and I think everybody will enjoy watching it.
Excellent. So real quick, tell us what's coming up for 2016. What do we got planned for your boat, but also for St. Clair?
Well, for our boat, we're turning around right now. I've got it all apart. We found out we cracked a couple gimbals, and we've got a few things that we're redoing. We're actually going to rewire the boat, and we're setting the boat up a little differently for this year. We're hoping to come off the line without having any gremlins. Anything that caused us problems over the 2015 year, we're just eliminating it and we're replacing it. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to go that way. We'll start out with our first race in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and then after that, we'll be running some of the OPA races. Actually, the St. Clair race, the event here, is the last full weekend in July, which I believe is the 29th, 30th, and the 31st. And of course, Fun Fest Productions is going to be involved. I don't know what the bands are. They won't let us know until probably February, March, I think is what that's going to be. But they do a great job with everything. And of course, our city and everybody else and the DPW and everything does a fantastic job with that event.
Well, and really appreciate you coming by. Ed Smith, the co-owner and driver of the Cleveland Construction racing boat. A lot of fun. Great clip of action there, and good luck in 2016.
Thank you. The only thing we'd like to do is we'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas
Absolutely.
and a Happy New Year's. For this.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. John Carter here with Pressbox. We'll see you again next week when we'll be speaking to Sean Sherrill, the boys basketball coach at St. Clair. Goodbye, everybody.